really hard to sell my novel. I wrote a novel called An Untamed State, and it's about a Haitian American woman who's visiting her parents in Port-au-Prince when she's kidnapped and held for 13 days because her father is reluctant to pay the ransom. And so it is a very dark and violent book. And I always knew it was going to be a hard sell, even though men write dark and violent shit all the time. But when women do it, it's like, oh my God, that's so dark. Whatever. And so for the first year it was on the market, there was no movement. There was a lot of compliments, but no movement. And people said that they felt like it was exploitative and this and that and the other. And I was like, have you read American Psycho? Like, no. And so I got a new agent who was, my first agent was great, but I got a new agent who was way more established. And I think knew better editors. And still, like, you would cry if I told you what my advance was. I'll tell you, my advance was $12,500. Just so you know what the market is. You'll cry when I tell you the Bad Feminist advance. But my editors are here. But it was a similar price point. That's what writers of color go for. And it's heartbreaking because I really struggled with the advances that I got. I mean, I'm grateful and all, but that the book sold. And I will say that on the back end, both publishers have been extraordinarily supportive on touring, marketing, like no complaints. And quite honestly, I'm really happy about that because I've earned out on both books, which wasn't hard to do. But
which is a big deal.
It is a very big deal. And so, so part of me feels like that was race-based. And you have to emotionally prepare for that because I hear of all these crazy fucking advances that white people, and I say that with love, but that white people get like an entry advance like in the 70s and the hundreds, the low hundreds, and like here they were like not willing to come up off of fucking $15,000. Are you serious? And I say that I'm not angry. It's just this is the reality, and I feel like this is a safe space to discuss this. Like money talks, and people of color, we don't get shit from publishers up front, and oftentimes there's very little on the back end. On the back end, I've been extraordinarily lucky, and I have had no issues. At both presses, they have known how to publicize my books. I've had input on covers. They have never asked me to compromise anything about myself, and so the only complaint I've ever had is about advances. But I think I work with two really good imprints. Grove Atlantic and Harper Perennial is just really good people who understand diverse audiences, and if they don't know something, they're willing to learn. And so I've been really lucky, and I wish I had more to say like that was like about trauma in the publishing industry, but it was just really hard to sell. Bad Feminist sold quickly, but it was very hard to sell the novel. I think it's very hard if you are not telling the kind of story that people want to see, like Joy Luck Club, or something that can be easily like, oh, look at these people, and look how interesting they are. And they have such exotic stories. Like, no, Haiti is awesome, but it's also horrible. And here's something that happens there. Nobody wants to read that story. And sometimes there can also be only one. Of any given ethnicity. So Edwidge, who I love and who blurbed my book, and if she didn't like my book, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. There's this Highlander mentality. Yes. So you can be the only, you're the Thai writer, and you're the Iranian writer, and you're the Haitian writer, and that's it. We've fulfilled our quota. And so that's one of the biggest issues, is sort of saying that we can have multiple voices from people of color, and those voices are different and will matter. And there's also a flattening of experience. Like, oh, you're the next Edwidge. Actually, we're nothing alike. She's amazing and one of the most gracious and generous people I've ever met, but there's nothing similar in our writing at all, except that we use words. And so you also have to fight against that, about the flattening of difference, because people think, oh, if we're all people of color, there's nothing different about us. I'm like, oh, we're very different, I promise you. And so there are a lot of things that you have to think about and worry about, but it starts with getting a good agent, and then no matter what the money situation is, trust in yourself and know that you'll make it back. on the other end. And so don't let that be a barrier. Like, it was never a barrier for me. I always knew right up front that I was going to sign these contracts because they were good contracts, and my agent was really supportive, and the editors were really supportive. The publicity teams have been really supportive. And so you just have to make sure you find the right people. And if you don't think they're the right people, wait, because your writing is worth waiting for. It's really hard to wait, but it's worth it. I waited, and like sometimes you have to turn down a shitty opportunity and wait. Okay, well, I'm going to just give you the truth. I procrastinate and fuck around for a very long time, and I watch a lot of TV. And then Chopped comes on for like 5 hours. And I'm like, so great. And then I check the internet, and I check Twitter, and I click on all the links, and I read things, and I think, oh, I'm getting so informed. Finally, around 11, I'm like, I should probably start writing, but let me check Gmail one more time, just in case. And then around 3, I'm like, I better write something. So oftentimes it's a lot of procrastination, but while I'm procrastinating, I'm thinking. I do a lot of my writing in my head. And so I'll do writing in my head while I'm walking around, while I'm driving to work, and so on and so forth, and while I'm messing around. And that's why people think I write fast, because then when I sit down to write, it just comes out. And so my process is to do a lot of premeditative thinking, and then I sit down and I write and it comes out. And then as I revise, I generally, if I have the time, and I don't always have the time, what I do is I read it out loud, and I really listen to what I'm saying, and does my argument make sense, or does my story here make sense? Are my characters believable? And does the language flow in an interesting way? Did I sound pretty? And if the answer to that question is no, then I go back in and I try and fix it. And the other part of my routine, the real, all jokes aside, I do try to write every day. And I don't view that as a burden. I love writing, and it's very much a form of self-medication for me. I think that, is what explains some of my prolificness. It's how I keep the crazy away.
That's Roxane's book. We just need to be there until she's done.